The Oscars, an awards ceremony with a perfect track record. But somehow, in 2024, they got the nominees all wrong. I'm Nikki P. Let's talk about the Oscar snubs this year, starting with the big ones. May December. While May December did get screenplay recognition, it's weird to not tip the hat to Julianne Moore, Charles Melton, and Natalie Portman, an awe-inspiring cast playing with material that could go in 1,000 different directions, most of them completely wrong. This movie could have whiffed on the comedy, or played the serious notes too hard, or fumbled any number of its singularly strange relationships. Instead, it's a masterclass in complex vibes. And the reason everything fits together so well is obviously Todd Haynes at the center of it all. Give him a nod for Best Director. And while you're at it, you might as well throw in Best Picture. Why didn't May December rise to the top in the minds of the voters? I don't know. The speculation is that Hollywood doesn't like movies that are mean to Hollywood, which is why The Artist wins Best Picture, and May December is largely shut out. Whatever, it's fine. Best International Feature, Anatomy of a Fall. This is a bit of an inversion of May December. Anatomy of a Fall is very well represented in most of the major categories: picture, director, actress, screenplay, editing. But somehow, France didn't submit it for Best International Feature, where it surely would have won. Boy, France must be kicking themselves. No, they're probably fine. Best Visual Effects, Oppenheimer.
Computer graphics tend to be, they can feel a bit anodyne, a bit safe.
Nice one, Nolan. You went out there and you claimed your movie didn't have any CGI, and I guess the voters believed you. Never mind leaving out over 100 visual effects artists from the credits of Oppenheimer. What is your obsession with claiming everything is practical? It's okay to use a bit of CG in your big bomb movie. Nolan must be kicking himself. Nah, he's probably fine. Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie. Not snubbed? I agree. It feels tone-deaf to give Barbie recognition in a whole bunch of categories except for director and lead actress. And I'm a Gerwig stan. Lady Bird is a modern classic. But I'm going to respectfully disagree that Barbie needs more than 8 nominations, $1 billion, and a priceless wave of cultural impact. I'm gonna argue the movie itself is more focused on Ken's journey than Barbie's, and that the 5 director finalists deserve it a little bit more. In terms of non-male directors, yes, there should be more. Representation is a bigger issue than any one nominee, and this doesn't fix the problem. But I think it's also pretty cool and underappreciated that Justine Triet managed to get a very well-deserved nom for Anatomy of a Fall, a French movie which did not make $1 billion. And having said all that, it's time for snubs that had no chance to begin with. Sophie Wilde, talk to me.
He's behind you now. He'll split you, pretty boy. I'll split ya!
Horror may be the most underappreciated genre in the performance categories, and this note-perfect, sensitive, shape-shifting spirit summoner is a classic example of a knockout that was destined to be overlooked. Yes, she inhabits a wide array of dead people, different ages, lives, etc., all of whom chew the scenery, all of whom she embodies with uncanny accuracy. But this performance also manages to stay grounded and vulnerable as Sophie navigates the even spookier world of Australian teenagers. So brutal and unforgiving, you'd almost rather have your being fully sublimated by a regretful spirit. Dave Bautista, Knock at the Cabin.
But if you could look inside, you'd see that my heart is broken.
Why is it broken?
Because of what I have to do today.
I'm a sucker for playing against type. Bautista is one of the most physically imposing actors of all time, and in Knock at the Cabin, he's playing a sweet gym teacher who could never hurt a fly. Unless he had a series of visions that convinced him that the fly needed to sacrifice itself in order to save humanity. There's a moment after an intense struggle where he just barely manages to put on his teeny tiny spectacles, and my whole theater was in stitches. This guy is attacking our central heroic characters, and we're too delighted by his presence to even care. We're basically on his side. And let me remind you, Bautista is dealing with M. Night dialogue here, and M. Night direction. And while there have been great performances under those conditions, I'm gonna say it's easier to give a bad performance.
Plan on murdering me in my sleep?
What? No!
And these crazy people are terrorizing a family, but Bautista is so warm and reasonable and convincing about his cult mission, I feel like it's rude to not just go along with all the terrifying things he's talking about. And really, Groff is the one being weird. Nicolas Cage, dream scenario. I talked about this a little bit in my top 10 of 2023 video, but let me reiterate. Nicolas Cage is one of the most charismatic actors ever, but for some reason, he's also amazing at playing the socially inept. You've got Adaptation, Pig, Bringing Out the Dead, but this performance might be the best example of his awkward, bumbling brilliance. He's a timid, passive, near-invisible university professor who, every time he fumbles a joke or rubs a friend the wrong way, it feels kind of like a magic trick, because you know this is Nick Cage, and it's always within Cage's power to make a monologue sound smooth as silk, or land a catchphrase you'll never forget, or just stand there and look cool. And this character makes you believe it's impossible for Nick Cage to look cool. Cailee Spaeny, Priscilla.
You like Elvis Presley?
Of course. Who doesn't?
Priscilla tells the story of Elvis's staggeringly creepy relationship with a child who became his bride. She's recruited at the age of 14, and as the movie unfolded, I kept wondering when this really good child actor was going to get swapped out for an adult. And that never happens. It's Cailee Spaeny all the way, and she makes all of those ages work as her character morphs little by little from 14 to 28. And sure, she's got support from makeup and costuming, but there's more to it than that. The voice, the physicality, and that world weariness that slowly seeps into this once innocent being, they're all made to look easy by Spaeny. And she doesn't have a ton to work with here, at least in terms of dialogue. Sophia's vision for Priscilla is pretty muted, but in spite of all of that, you can still see and feel this extremely well-developed inner world. Best song, Peaches. I'm a lifelong Mario fan who was not very happy with the movie.
That's a go.
Because it was bad. But Peaches has been stuck in my head since last April, and aside from being an earworm, it does what any great comedy song should do. It makes its point, does a couple of impressive riffs, then it's over before you even have a chance to get sick of the joke. Bowser is obsessed with Peach. He wants to marry her. Do we need more than 90 seconds to understand this insane, underdeveloped premise derived from a pixel platformer? Of course not. And it didn't even make the short list for Best Song. Meanwhile, I'm Just Ken, which I also really like, it's doing basically the same thing, but I would argue in a more dragged out, slightly less catchy kind of way, and it's sweeping. Wow, what a pathetic batch of nominees. Just kidding, I think this year is actually pretty strong. I'm Nicky P, I have a degree in film. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.